Got a chance now to talk about nickel in Brazil with Jeremy Martin, who's the Chief Executive of Horizonte Minerals. Jeremy, I've known you for a long while at Horizonte, and you've taken this project on. You're now at the cusp of a feasibility study, I know. Explain a bit more about what it is you're offering investors.
Yeah, so we've got one of the largest and highest grade nickel projects globally today. We're fully funded for a feasibility study. Market cap is 45 million sterling. We've got a good group of cornerstone shareholders. We've got JP Morgan, Hargreave Hale. We've got a good selection of names. Feasibility study complete in Q1 next year, and then aim to be construction ready at the end of next year.
Yeah, and what's the, you fully funded all for the feasibility study?
Yep, fully funded. We raised 9 million at the end of last year, institutionally backed, and that takes us through to the end of feasibility study.
Yeah, you've also been acquisitive in the past, haven't you? I know that you did this deal with the acquisition of Glencore nickel, wasn't it? Back in 2015, I think, wasn't it? How important was this to Horizonte and where you are now?
Yeah, that was a game change transaction for us. The Glencore nickel asset was number 2 on the Xstrata nickel pipeline. They built the number 1 asset, which was Koniambo. This project is directly adjacent to our discovery. They'd spent around $70 million on it. We acquired it for $8 million, and effectively it was a standalone project. We consolidated it with our asset, and that's how we've created this tier 1 asset. So it was a big step for us, and it was right at the bottom of the market. It was 2016, nickel price at a 15-year low, and it was a really opportune time for that transaction.
That's an interesting point, actually, the nickel price. I mean, analysts have been forecasting a rise in the nickel price. I think they're still going for that over the next few years. What is your view on the nickel price, and how does it change things for you at the stage you're at, because you're not yet producing?
Yeah, I think nickel has been an interesting space. In the last 12 months, we've seen the basket of commodities increase. We've seen copper increase, iron ore increase, zinc hit a 10-year high last week. Nickel hasn't yet moved. It's really trading today at 10 to 12-year lows. If you take the 10-year average, it's $16,000 a tonne. Today we're at 10.5, 11. So going forwards, the next 12 to 24 months is a very exciting time. And if you look at banks' consensus forecasts moving out to 2019, 2020, they're saying anywhere above $14,000 a tonne. So that uplift in nickel price is yet to come. Everything we've been doing is against a 10-year nickel price low. So there's a lot of gearing in terms of what we're doing.
So how different is that going to change things for you, assuming you get this upward trajectory on the base metal price?
Well, if you look at, we've used $12,000 a tonne long term for our project economics, and that gives you a 19% IRR and a 300 million NPV. If you take that up to $14,000 a tonne, your IRR is mid-20s, and you're up to 450, 500 million NPV, so it's an exponential step up. And it basically takes your payback from 4 years down to 2.5 years. And if you take that up to the 16-year average, you go up again. So it's effectively just an exponential step up on nickel price.
As a chief executive, you know you're well placed. You're in a good jurisdiction in Brazil. Everybody knows Brazil for what it is, a good metal. Do you have to look over your shoulder for companies wanting to take the asset over? Have you had any approaches? Is this something you're conscious of?
An interesting question. In the past, we've had a number of expressions of interest. I think the last 3 or 4 years we've been at such a low point in the nickel price cycle. 50% of all mines are sub-economic out there today, so it's been more a case of survival for the nickel players. What's really played into our favour is there's no new money going into the next generation of projects. So we are one of the largest, one of the highest grade at the most advanced stage of development. So I think going forwards, if we see the nickel price doing what the consensus says it's going to do, I think we will be very well primed and placed to take advantage of any M&A activity.
Yeah, the feasibility side obviously is going to de-risk the project to some degree. Do you have any more de-risking sort of plans ahead?
Big part of that is getting the permitting. So we've just completed the construction permit, which we aim to file in the next few weeks. The same with the mining permit. So our aim is that midway through next year, effectively it's a fully de-risked, permitted project, ready to start building up the construction finance.
In terms of the valuation and where you sit, I think your market cap is currently £57 million. What's the value of the metals that you've so far uncovered.
Yeah, I think that's probably the dollar value. I think today we're at between 40 to 45 million market cap sterling. At that valuation and at 4p, we're trading at around 1.5 to 2 cents per pound of nickel in the ground, which is a very low range. The last big nickel transaction, which was very similar to our project, same type of deposit, same jurisdiction, that was taken through the feasibility study, so where we will be Q1 next year, and that was acquired for $850 million, which valued that at 25 cents per pound. So from 2 cents to 25 cents at the same stage of development. So I would say our aim in the next 6 months is to be somewhere kind of in that 4 to 5 cents per pound range, which is where these assets trade at feasibility, but there are multiple value drivers going forward. So yeah, there's massive value in terms of gearing to nickel price.
Yeah, anybody got any questions from the floor for Jeremy? Okay, yes please, thank you.
Yeah, Jeremy, a couple of things that I like your comments on. In Canada recently, there have been some junior miners that multiple uplifts in the share value, and Horizonte is a junior miner, and it has a listing in Canada. And secondly, on the battery front, Volkswagen recently put out a 10-year supply, 10-year supply contract on cobalt for their lithium-ion batteries. And as we know, for every unit of cobalt, there's 6 to 8 of nickel. Does that show that the EV market is a good one possibly for expansion of demand for nickel?
Yeah, I think so. So in answer to your first question, we've obviously got our TSX listing. We're not getting the same uplift that a lot of peer group companies in Canada are because we don't have a significant amount of stock in Canada. So we need to have a liquidity event in Canada. We need to build up some liquidity, which effectively means putting some equity into that marketplace. There's definitely interest there. We've just got to do that at the right time. And then the second point, yeah, I think the EV, let's call it movement, is going to be very significant for nickel. Global nickel production today is 2 million tonnes, and about 1% of that goes into the nickel market. So if you look forwards to what the predictions are across the banks, looking at 2025, nickel requirement is anywhere from 150 to 400,000 tonnes, which is a massive increase in the nickel demand side. You're already seeing nickel units moving out of the stainless steel, which is the traditional space, into the battery space. So you've got to replace that with something. So you've got a robust stainless steel market, which is going to take nickel forwards anyway. And then you overlay this demand for nickel on the EV side, and where's it going to come from? So I think it's a phenomenal space to be in. There are no big new projects out there, and we are well positioned going forwards to maximise on that opportunity.
Any more questions? Okay, the final question I've got is just allowing you the opportunity to sum up the investment case, because you've laid out the fact that you've got a good metal, you're in a good space, and as I said, we're in a good environment in terms of the geography. What is the investment case that you're presenting to clients at the moment?
I think the key is Horizonte is a pure nickel play. We've got good institutional shareholders, we've got Teck, Glencore, JP Morgan, a good selection of institutional names there. The project is moving through to the feasibility stage, which is the big de-risking step, and you're doing that against a backdrop of a commodity that is strengthening in terms of its fundamentals and hasn't yet had that uplift that all the other commodities had. So I think it's a very exciting time for us.
Yeah, good. We'll look forward to more news as it comes through. Jeremy, thanks so much indeed. Jeremy Martin, Chief Executive of Horizonte.
Thank you.